Okay, so a few chaver asked Shilas on the middle sifim, and also I saw on the WhatsApp chat similar questions were asked. So we'll try to dig in a bit over there, try to explain at least even clearly what's going on over here. Obviously, it's a very tifin yanimda. Trying not to get too lost, and if I go off track, just pull me back in. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so basically, Sifim, it starts halfway through, no, that's with Sif Gimel and Dalid, right? Or somewhat, yeah, part of Sif Beis, and then Gimel and Dalid. And then in Sif Hey, it speaks about the Indian that Dafka Yisrael, the ones that dig Medir B'Tachtoinim. Before we get to Yisrael, what's the Dir B'Tachtoinim, and what's the Avodah here, and what's the Hasbara Seinyan? Okay, first of all, anyone specific shilas on these sifim? Ganze Bittel, okay. Warum schon gefragt? Saying that the oil comes from the tzimtzum itself. Saying the chayre doesn't come from the tzimtzum. Oh, you're saying the tzimtzum on atzmus. Yeah, what's the tzimtzum on atzmus? Right, so that's the first shayla pretty much everyone asked. That the different shit that's in Indian tzimtzum, right, the famous letter of the Rebbe, I'm going to what's the shit of the Alter Rebbe? What's the shit of Chassidus Chabad? That tzimtzum lav kipshutoi in the oyer. But in the moyer, there's no tzimtzum. Right, ha-moyer b'yizgalus. Ha-moyer b'yizgalus. And what's the hasbara brought for Amor B'Izgalos? We also had in Vasilagani Chafei, Amor B'Izgalos, that the Gam Noshim Amiyaretz say Baruch Hashem, and right that the Eibishter is pashus by them. Here we come and say there's a tzimtzum on the atzmus. The chiddush of Elam Hazeh is Gam Atzmus Hu Behelim, and that's the ikr chiddush in tzimtzum. Shemaylam ala atzmus. Right, this is it's Mailam on the oyer is not such a chiddush. But this is Mailam ala Atzmos is a chiddush. What's Mailam ala Atzmos? How's it Mailam ala Atzmos? Chayre Amoyer B'Izgalus. The Etzem is B'chol Moki. 1. 2. He brings this lashon here as well. He brings it in Basi Lagan Yud Aleph and other Maamarim that are the same sugya. Right? That when he gives the hasbara, why can't we say that Tachlis HaKavana was El Misel Yoinim? So there's a few different biyorim, right? Remember, it's Basagani Yudalet, there's Sif Dalet, there's Sif Hey. But in Sif Dalet, there's 2 biyorim, and then there's 2 biyorim in Sif Hey, but it changes a bit. But what's one of the Nekudas that he says there in Yudalet and other places? We mentioned that here, that's from Tanya. But then the vart that he says is that Lamaila is Giloyim, and the Giloyim, right, either the Lashon is, the Etzem is Muvdul Minyan Giloyim, I think that's there in Sifhei, or that Giloyim are Mailim on the Etzem. Right? So L'cheira, Giloyim are Mailim on the Etzem. Meaning, the Elam Yisrael Yoinim, the Giloyim are Mailim on the Etzem. That's where the Etzem is not B'Yizgalus. But Elam Hazeh, where there aren't Giloyim, so it's not Mailim on the Etzem. Right? L'cheira, Mamish Oyis is Punk Farkert in many Maamarim. Right? That the higher elam is, you can't say that that's where the dir lo yisbarich is, where the etzem is nimshach, because it's giloyim. And giloyim are mailam ala etzem, right? Pashtos, right? An adult that has more giloyim, an adult that has more seichel and more midas, they're more developed character, human being. So their etzem is less, right? Whatever the etzem, if the etzem is the etzem emunah, or the etzem is the etzem nekudas achayis, whichever context is, but the more character someone has and the more complex someone is, the pshittas atzmus is less there. Yeah, the ish pashat is pshittas atzmus. The bal seichel, the bal midas, you don't really have it. So giloyim are mailam ala etzem. Here we say that what's the chiddush of Elam Hazeh that dafka does that is the etzem behelim, right? So Elamai. Obviously, when we speak here about the etzem being behelim of us meret and under erte that giloyim is mailam ala etzem, or that hamor biskalos lamat, we're speaking about a different kud of helim, a different kind of helim. So we'll put down this. We'll get back to that. We just wanted to put that point because that's something obviously that comes up. Another shaila is Kama v'Kama have asked, what's the shaila in the beginning of Sif Dalet? Right, beginning of Sif Dalet in the Kovetz in the bottom of page 30. Achadayin Sarich Lahavin. What's the shaila there? First of all, Pasha Pshat. What's the shaila? What's he asking? Yeah, Pasha, just translate into English or Yiddish, or you just say the words in Hebrew, whatever works for you. Yeah. He asks, every world is tachtin, biyachas to a higher world. So if you want a dir of tachtainim, so every world could be considered a dir of tachtainim. Make a dir natzilus, and it's tachtin biyachas to keser. Make it in keser, it's tachtin biyachas to akudin. Go all the way up to Aggo before Kedim Atzimtzum. It's always an element of tachtin. So first of all, what's the shaila? Meaning, what were we thinking? In the previous sif, he brings Tanya, Nisav Kadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael Dirib Tachtonim. There should be a tachtin. Tachtin can be b'makim, right? It's not about space. It's not a spatial thing. But it's a lower level, lower floor. It means a madrega. That we're talking about Elam Haza Agashmi, which is tachtin madrega, the biggest hester eri yisbarich. Then the context, tachtin is in the context of Gili Alikus, because that's what it's all about. What Lashon has Ikar Akel, the Ikar is Gili Alikus. Right? When we speak about higher or lower, what do we mean? It's all about what is more connected to the Eibishter, what gets less in the way, what's more transparent and reveals its source, and what's less. So Elam Haza is the tachtin b'madrega. Tachas helam hester. Fine. That's why the Samachas Baruch is a dir b'tachtin, because he wants the lowest, the place that is helam hester. Kommt there and Sif Daled fragt, every world is a tachtin on some level. Yeah, but we want the tachtin, not tachtin on some level. Right? What's the question? Okay, now let's say he's coming and he's asking, you could have the biggest tachtin, but you don't need the biggest tachtin. Maybe sure wants a tachtin. So you have a tachtin here. Nadir tachtin. Here, you got your tachtin. There's a bigger tachtin. There's always bigger idiots. Yeah. He's enough of an idiot. Yeah. The helim elikos. There's enough of a helim on the truth. Okay, so then what's the answer to that? See, the answer is no, it's not good enough. Why? Because the higher elements are Gilui HaHelim. So you can't reach Atzmos. Masha'enke Elam Haza. What about Elam Haza? Tachla has a Helim Ezra Derech. Okay, so therefore what? And there's a Helim on Atzmos, he says. It goes on, he says a Helim on Atzmos. Therefore what? So this pretty much goes throughout the whole sif. Ganz feine arichas, geschmack arichas. That here we have a helim on the atzmos. So when you're mevarer elam haza, you take away the helim, you come to atzmos. Because here there's a helim and a helim even on atzmos, so when you take away the helim, you reach atzmos. Right, 3 lines from the bottom of 31. Because they are Giluy HaHelim, they're Giluyim. So Esirit nit on Atzmos, they're not Mailam on the Atzmos, and they don't become a Dira La Atzmos. First, what does that mean? Elam Haza is Mailam on Atzmos, so therefore it's a Dira for Atzmos. Right, that's a bit counterintuitive. The Eilam Yoinim, according to this logic, the Eilam Yoinim are not Mailam on Atzmos. They're not Mailam on the Oyer, but definitely not Mailam on Atzmos. So Atzmos shall feel very comfortable there. No. Eilam Haza is Mailam on the Oyer, not only the Oyer, on the Atzmos, because he's Mailam on the Atzmos, so they're Greicht Atzmos, and therefore it can become Dira La Atzmos. Right, so other than saying the word Atzmos 5 times, it sounds like a bit of a, how does that work? What's the logic there? Okay, and the higher worlds? You're saying it's not even Mailam? it's so disconnected from Atzmos. And what would that mean? What does it mean it's so disconnected from Atzmos? That's what he's saying the whole time. That he's saying that the Chiddush in Eilam Hazeh is that because the Makir of Eilam Hazeh, it's this Havos, comes from the Tzimtzum. That's the main Chiddush of the Tzimtzum, that's Mailam ala Atzmos. Right. He says, the Taka Na'atzos Nimtza B'chol Makim, even after the Tzimtzum in Eilam Hazeh, but the Pulsat Tzimtzum is that in Eilam Hazeh it shouldn't be felt, which L'chir implies that a higher world that somewhat is felt. So then that's great. If Atzmos is felt, that doesn't make a Dira. What's the whole? What does Dira mean? What's Dira b'tachtoin? Right? Dira means that he feels at home. He's comfortable there. He's able to express himself. So he's able to express himself only where he's Nelam. Mashenk in the higher worlds. Right? So what's happening here? And what are the different stages? Okay, so that says that a lot of his written is somewhat cryptic and bekitzer, even though there's an arichas hasbara, but when it comes to actual var, it's a bit bekitzer. So I can't say, and it's not mugis, I can't say that it's definitely the pshat. This is basically what's moved over here, and in other places it seems to be at least I'll say one oif or two ifanim how to understand the mahalach hadvarim. First of all, like this. Perek Lamed Vav Tanya, Nudazo is Maamar Azal, that the Tachlis Bria Selam Hazeh is Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu Liz Like Dir B'Tachtoin. Why did Abishai create the world? Because he wants a Dir B'Tachtoin. Okay, then he goes on and he says, right, that Tachtoin means the Inyan Hester Eire Yisbarech. Tachtin means a world where there's a total helam on the loikos, and that's where and that's where he wants a dir. Then he goes on and says, bottom of the page, the whole process of Seder Ishtalshalos, having one world, another darg, another sphere, is not for the higher world. It's not for Elam Esel Yoinim. Why? Hoyel v'lohem yerida me'er panav yisbarech. Okay, let's put that on the side because it's an important statement. We have to understand what that means. Hoyel v'lahem yerida me'er panav yisbarech. Rather, the tachlis is Eilam Hazeh Tachtain, which in this world kach ola b'rtzein yisbarech. The Deibusher wants nachas ruach kadiskafia sitra achra v'ishapich hashoichel inahoira. That in this world will be the skafia and ishapcha, and here the gili oir Hashem will be meir in the mokim achoyshech, in a place of total darkness. Yisrei no'er min achoyshech. So it's a much greater gili, because when you have the darkness transformed into light, or either light seen in the darkness, or nachtifer, that the darkness itself is transformed into light, it's a much greater oir. Okay, so 2 points. First, we'll discuss the issue with Eilam Esel Yoim, and then the Maila of Eilam Esel Tachtoin. So first of all, what's the issue with Eilam Esel Yoim? Hoyel v'lahem yerida me'er panav yisbarech. What does it mean? Hoyel v'lahem yerida me'er panav yisbarech. So the emes is that it seems that Chassidim, it's hard to say clear what the in the Maamarim the Hasbara is, but the way it was learned, the way Chassidim understood in previous doiris was different than the way we understand it. And Be'ikr, the way the Rebbe taught it in the first Maamar, very clearly in Basi Lagan Yud Aleph. That Hamal, the beer Hoyel v'lahem yerida me'er panav yisbarech, was like this: that the Tachlis can't be for the Eilam Esel Yoinim. Why? Hoyel v'lahem, because to them Yerida me'er panav yisbarech, because to them there is a yerida from the oir. How could we say? Let's talk about Keser, Arich. Yeah, Arich is it. Arich is the point, is the goal. He says no, you can't say it's the goal. Why? Because to them is a yerida. There's a lower level after it. How can you say that's the goal if it doesn't finish there? If the whole goal of the Tzimtzum and Seder Ishtalshlos is to reach Arich, so let's get down to Arich and stop right there. Right, we'll have the Tzimtzum, we'll have Ak and Akudim and whatever, yeah. And Atik and Arich, full stop. The goal Atzilis, let's go down to Atzilis and stop there. Why is there after Arich? Why is there Atzilis? And why is there Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, Gashmi? Why are they all here? So Hoyel V'Lahem Yirida Merpanim Yisbarach is, since to them there's Vaiter a Yerida. There's a greater Yerida that happens after them. So they can't be the Matara. What the Rebbe learns in Abasi Lagani, and the Cher Azay is also before in other places, is Hoyel V'Lahem Yerida Merpanim Yisbarach. If the language V'Lahem is not from them, like to they themselves. Hoyel V'Lahem Yerida Merpanim Yisbarach. Since they themselves are a Yerida Merpanim Yisbarach. They are a Yerida. And what's the lesson there? And you can't say that, you can't, the lesson Yudalv is, you can't say that the Kavanah is V'Shvila Yerida. Right? The Kavanah is V'Shvila Yerida. The oir is in a great place, right? The oir is the ganze gilo in a very high level, and then the oir goes down and is nismayit, and there's less gilo because there's a yerida. How could the matara be for yerida? Now, it's a big chiddush. It's a big chiddush. This new beer that the Rebbe gives. Why? Because the beer that l'chera was learned before, it fits sort of right in. And it makes sense. How can you say that the goal is, if we're starting from stage 1 and we go all the way down to stage 10, how can you say the goal is stage 5? If the goal is stage 5, which we go 1 to 5 and it's finished by 5, why would there be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Why would there be another 5 steps? Obviously, the goal is to finish all 10 steps. But if you say the Pshat Hoyel V'Lahem Yiridim Merpanim Yisbarach is, you can't say that the Kavanah is for that specific darga, that specific oilam, because that oilam, the Gilul Likus in that oilam is on a lower level than higher oilam is. What's the problem with that beer? I can say, one second. Your issue with Atzilus, or your issue with Arich, is that there's less Gilei Likus there than in the higher worlds? So what's your solution? Your solution is Elam Hazagashmi, Shkoyach, which is what? The Tachtein Shein Tachtein Lamatam, the greatest Helm and Elikus. The greatest Helm and Elikus. Which is a bigger Yerida. So the problem with the higher world is that there's a Yerida. So what's your solution? That they are Yerida. The solution is let's go to a bigger Yerida. How is that an answer? How is that a solution? That's been negaya to the issue, the first side, the half of the problem with Ilm Sol Yoin, or what's lacking in Ilm Sol Yoin. Now, when we get to Ilam Haza Tachtein, why does the Eibusher want a dira b'tachtein? What's the answer? Why does he want a dira gilul likus dafke in the makim of the greatest choshech? What's the reason for that? What's the answer? The Taivas can kash in it, right? Where does it say that? The Taivas can kash in it. Right, so it's a word that they asked Alter Rebbe about what's the point? I'm sorry, what's the point of this taiva? I said of taiva kinkashin, but in Tanya it's not really what it says. In Tanya it doesn't say of taiva kinkashin. He actually gives a pretty decent asbara. What's the asbara? I read it before. The asbara is that when there's a skaf yisiderach and sabach hashechel in a then it's yisunor min achayshech. That's asbara. We see this in Elam Hazeh. It works that way, right? If someone's in darkness for a long time, these hostages came out, they didn't see the light of day for some of them for over a year. All of a sudden you see oir. The oir is number one, you appreciate the oir a lot more. But not only you appreciate the oir has a lot more meaning. The oir tutufa sachmer, the oir has much stronger pu'ula. Alachas kamikama, when it's not only oir seen in the darkness, that the darkness itself is transformed into light, it's a whole new level of oir. It's a mer digakunz. Right, you have the mashal is brought in Chassidus, Kam Pamim, the mashal of Tzipar and Medaberes. I think over here, he brings in the Maamar in our Maamar. No, it's later in the Ara. They're not sure. In the Ara 34, Ulay Huva Dugmad Mi'ilim Memshach Tzipar and Medaberes. No, the Tzibur Deberes, one second, is Tzibur Deberes brought inside the Maamar? Huh? About the different dark, huh? Tzibur Deberes, yeah, we get to different Indian. The Tzibur Deberes. The Tzibur Deberes, there's a special geschmack of the Tzibur Deberes. People will pay a lot of money for a parrot. Look at what's he saying? He's saying nonsense. Your little kid could say it a lot better. No, it's not because what? Because there's a chiddush here. The chiddush is a ma'ilata chiddush. So the vart of Dirab Tachtoinim is the way it's mevor in Perek Lamed Vav is that there is a ma'ila, there is a chiddush in Dirab Tachtoinim. The dafka, the tacht, and dafka, a place of Helen Hester, comes on Makim of Gilalikus. So on the one hand, we see in Tanya, we see that there is a certain hasbara. Le'idach, the Rebbe said, there is no hasbara. So in one of the Maamrim, the Rebbe and the Rebbe Taka says that there's two dargas in Dirab Tachtoinim. There's a darg in Dirab Tachtoinim of Perek Lamed Vav, which there is epis hasbara. At least it's nichnas in Tam V'das, even though that itself, Alter Rebbe writes, Ola B'Rtzoini Yisbarach. Right? Even the hasbara for Dirab Tachtoinim is only because he decided. Because we're talking about Atzvos, and Atzvos there's no rhyme or reason. Right? The whole concept of Tam V'das doesn't exist. It's only because he decided. But he decided that should be slavish in some level of Tam V'das. That's one level of Dirab Tachtoinim. Then there's a higher level of Dirab Tachtoinim, which is nisave. There's no hasbara klal. L'mayla mitam v'das. There's no hasbara because at the end of the day, because that hagufa is really the hasbara is that the Eibishter enjoys a good parrot. Right. By us, we see a chiddush where nispal. You see a parrot. It's cool. You see whatever any barchid, something you don't expect. Right? What's a joke? Why do people laugh at a joke? It's like especially a riddle that you don't see it coming. Right? When you don't see the punchline. So it's funny. Why? Because it's a chiddush. You don't expect it. You're looking one direction and something comes from a completely different direction. So by us, a chiddush is out of our box. The Eibush there, a chiddush makes him happy. It's like, first of all, mikni mani v'ashalim. There's no, any chiddush comes from him, right? It's all, there is no chiddush. The teva is from him, the nest is from him. So ultimately, by the Eibush there, any hasbara is not real hasbara. So you have to come to this lamayla mitamadas. I'm saying a few different yom. I'm going to try to get to bring it into the Maamar, explain how it goes in our mind. Okay, now, in the first, so now in our Maamar, in Sif Gimel, so the first Nekudah he says is that was will men da Tachtoinim, that you want to do Tachtoinim b'madrega. That Olam Hazeh there's no Gila Likus. And in order to be mevar, and in order to get a Gila Likus, you have to have a Yagia. It's behelim. Fine. So when you're mevar Olam Hazeh and you're meisir the helim, then you come to Atzmos. And the Olam is al Yom Helim Yidam Merpanim Yisbarech. So through the higher world, you can't reach Atzmos. Only a Gilu Yer Shalafierech Eisei Olam. So it's a Yerida Mer Panam Yisbarech. Olam Hazeh, you reach Atzmos. Okay, so what's the Hasbara here? According to the Sif Gimel, right? You can't take the same Hasbara as Sif Dalid because Sif Dalid came after a question that we asked, and we come to a new beer, or we need a Tiferet beer. What's the beer in Sif Gimel without Sif Dalid? So with Pashtus, in Sif Gimel, the Hasbara is like this. The Eibishter wants a dira b'tachtoinim dafke. Was hat from a dira b'tachtoinim? What's the word of tachtoinim? Because in a tachtoin, before we get to what he gets out of it, but through being mevarer a tachtoin, in other words, when there's a helam v'hester nalikus, and we're mevarer a helam v'hester, we're mevarer a helam v'hester. One second, I can't say that. Give me a second. Yeah, possibly like that. that when you go to a place where there's a lack of gilui likus, and there you bring a gilui, so let's say there's a certain kunz over here, right? There's a certain chiddush here, and that chiddush is what Atzmos wants, or it makes the Eibishter happy. Uvemela, that's where there's a dir la Atzmos. Masha'enkin in the higher worlds, in the higher worlds where there it's not the kavana. You know, you don't have atzmos, you just have a certain level of gilui that's shayich to that oilam. So you have a great gilui likus, but atzmos hot minished. Why? Because atzmos you only get from being memala the Eibishter's rotzin in being mevarer helen. Being mevarer helen. Fine. So that's Siv Gimel. Very simple. He comes to the beginning of Siv Dalet and he asks like this. He says, one second. If the vart is what makes Olam Haza unique, that you're mevarer helen, the higher worlds also have helen. It's not tachlis a helen, but it's helen. Meaning in Atzilus there's more helen. There's more helen than Keser. In Keser there's more helen than Akudim. So if we will be in that world and we'll bring down a greater Gilui Elikos into Atzilus than is there on a natural, right, which technically exists. Like in Atzilus there's regular Gilui Eir, then there's Tisefes Eir. Right, through our mitzvahs, like we're Moisef Eiris B'Atzilus, right? So if we're bringing more Gilui than there was before, so it's some level of, so there was a helim on a certain oir. The oir that's in Keser is behelim in Atzilus. That cannot be Nizgala here. And now you break through that helim and you bring a greater Gilui oir. There you go. So v'meila, so you did the tachlis akavan of the Eibush there, which is what? To be mahapich helim into air. To bring oir into a place where it previously did not exist. It's not its natural place. So Taka, there was oir in Atzilus, but only a lower level of oir. Now we're able to bring a greater Gilui, whichever the oisis exactly are. And that's it. You made a dir latzmusi. If that's the hasbar, if that's what we need for atzmus to be nizgala, we can do it in Atzilus as well. Who said you need the lowest of the low? You need low. You need tachtim. So here he comes and says, Ach inyenu, da kommt er und sagt, das ist ein Wort. The vart isn't that find Helim and bring a Gilui there, or turn on, you have regular lights, and now you bring a fluorescent, or you bring, what are the new, right, the white light, LED, yeah, bring LED lights, it's all, it's good. Right, that's not the vart. You have to come face to face with Helim itself. With Helim. Right? It's not a circumstantial Helim, meaning there is some Gilui here, but it's not Tachlis Gilui, so I need a greater Gilui. No, that's not what's going to do it. The Vart over here is, it's by dealing with Helim, the Helim itself, the workings, and the anatomy of Helim, where Atzmos is Niskala, and where we come face to face with Atzmos. What's Pshat? So here's interesting. As I said, when it comes to Dir B'Tachtoinim, you can understand Dir B'Tachtoinim as some level of Hasbara, or Dir B'Tachtoinim is in Gansin, this is what the Atzmos want, Kavan Atzmos, right? Well, the first Hasbara would be the Sapcha Chashech on Nohira, the Maila of Sapcha, the Maila of Tzipram Deberes, of the Chiddush, right? Or you say Dir B'Tachtoinim is that a type can cash in it, right? This is what he wants. This is the type. But then there's another vart, which you have a lot in the Rebbe's Maamar and the Rebbe's Sichos, which gives some kind of hasbara, but the hasbara is an asmos dika hasbara. What's the hasbara? Avetzon, he says this in Basel Yani Yud Aleph. That the truth is that Dir B'Tachtoinim could have only happened in Eilam Haza. Because the shayla is like this. Nisavik Kadosh Baruch Hu Lizlei Dir B'Tachtoinim. Okay. And what if you wanted Al Yonim? Right? or cool, you make a difference. In the Medrash, the original Medrash, the different Tachlinim is that the Lashon goes like this: Tanchuma, that the Chassid is always mitzayin to. That B'shah Shebara Kadosh Baruch Hu Selam, when the Eibusha created the world, Nisave Sheyadur Batachtoinim K'moy Shadar B'Elyonim. Right, that's the Lashon. So first of all, there's a few Chidushim here. In other words, Chidushim, very different than. First of all, it's not the reason for creating the world. It's as the process already started. The world's already being created. Yeah, the world's already being created. And the Eibusha looks at this world and he's like, one second, the Elyonim are a pretty cool place. There I'm very comfortable. It's Gilei Likos. But Eilam HaTachtein is the hell of a hester. It's a disconnect. I want a home there as well, right? I want a vacation home also in Eilam Haz. But Chassidus and the Hasbar is for a different time. Chassidus learns it that Nisavik Dir B'Tachtoinim Dafke. So is it just happen like, okay, he had a Taiva Kinkasha in it, so part of the Kinkasha in it is he wanted Tachtin. He could have wanted Atzilus for his rise. He could have wanted Kedim Atzimtzum. Chassidus mevayer that the Dir B'Tachtoinim had to be B'Tachtoinim. Why? Because Dafke Oilam Haza Tachtin, Dafke, this place can be a Dira for Atzmus. There's a very Shmak and Meir, you say this to Kasicha in the Sugya, Yud Shvat, Chilik Tazayin Likut Sichas. The second half of the Sikha is about learning Smicha and Dayanis, somehow that ever goes into that, because that's Dir B'Tachtoinim, about doing Yer Yadin Yadin. So definitely it's some 70 Bachar Sikha, yeah. But the first half is very, very stark Askala, and a very Yisedistic Sikha, a few Sifim there about Havana, how Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu, Liyas Lo Yizbarach, Dir B'Tachtoinim, all these four elements are circular, they all lead one to another. And the point is that Dir B'Tachtoinim can only happen B'Tachtoinim. Why? Because Dira is Latzmusei, right? A Dira is only Atzmus has a Dira. Then Kud of Kviyas only exists by Atzmus. Atzmus is only Shoyre B'Tachtoinim. We mentioned earlier that the Giloyim are Mailim ala Etzem, which means that Etzem and Giloyim are two different languages. Right? It's two different languages. Giloyim can't be Toifes Etzem. Right, so let's say in the context of Gilui Likos, so Giluyim, what's Giluyim? Giluyim is Seichel and Midis, understanding Gadlus Abayra, appreciating the Eibishter's Mailis, the Eibishter's Bligvul. Alikos, everything about Alikos is Giluyim. Now that's what's felt and expressed, and the bittul that exists in all the Nivroim or Netzalim in the higher worlds, in the Eilam Esaruchniim, Eilam Esalyonim, that's what they connect with. Right, they're bottled to the Eibishter because they see the Gadlus Habayr, Maram Masecha, Magalu Masecha. And then there's Atzmus. Atzmus is what? Is the Etzem Etzias of the Eibishter, beyond any description and beyond any connection and any milas and any appreciation for him, just his Etzem Etzias. In the Ilmas Halyoinim, they don't have a shaykhis. They don't connect, and there's no context for the whole discussion about Atzmos. Right? Because they have a relationship. When you have a relationship with somebody, when you're connecting with somebody, so you're connecting to the Giluyim. Right? And that's what's Begiluyim there. Obviously, it's a Sachtifer, and the Oilimis, they are Oir, and Oir is Davik to the Moir, is the higher level of Oir, and the higher level and Moir, their whole conversation, their whole connection is in the Sprach of Giluyim. Mashenkin Etzem, the Etzem is Nivdom in a Giluyim. Right? They don't appreciate the Etzem. They don't, they handeln sich nicht mit Etzem. Mashenkin Eilam Hazeh. So what happens in Eilam Hazeh? Eilam Hazeh, so there's no Giluyim. There's no Giluyim. And where does Eilam Hazeh come from? Dafke Atzmos, which is Mitzusim Atzmos, only he can create Atzmos. Here, so there's a few points. Basically, there's 3-4 different ways how to approach this Indian in different Sichos Maamar. So one union is that Ilam Hazeh can be created only from Mitziyosei Me'atzmosei, only Misha Ein Le'ilo B'Siba can create Ilam Hazeh Ein Le'ilo B'Siba. That's number one. Number two is because there's no hergish here, and because the Seichel and Midas is Ruchnius. But in the Ilam Hazeh there's no Giloyim. So when there's no Giloyim, there's nothing to be Mailam on the Etzem. Right? Just like a little child, a little baby, when there's no Giloyim, there's no Seichel, there's no Midas, so the Etzem is Begiloy, right? What do you have in a child? Life. There's a whole discussion. The ganze Welt hat sich übergekehrt last week. The two babies, that's not what happened. So people were asking, like this it's a massive tragedy. Like what? There were thousands of people killed and hundreds of hostages, and like what's the word? It's just an emotional thing, but there's a certain nekudah that young children, like little babies, the geloyim don't get in the way, right? You see the etzem of life, the etzem anisham. You see the etzem achayis. Nocha nekudah is that because there's no oyer here whatsoever, so in order to bring a gilui oyer into this world, it has to come through a complete ishapcha. What's that ishapcha? In the higher world, you can say, okay, there's a lower level of oyer, and there's not a greater gilui oyer that was in a hechra. So what do you have to do now? You have to do megala, a deeper oyer. Megala tifra darga, but it's gilui helam. You megala something that's there. You just have to find ways to express it. Mashiach the Ilam Hazeh, there's no gilui whatsoever. It's complete helam. So what do you need here? You have to be mechader something that's a yesh me'ayin. It's almost like it doesn't exist b'chlal. In order to mechader something yesh me'ayin, you need koyach ha'etzem, right? Only atzmos could be mechader, just like only atzmos could create yesh me'ayin. So only koyach ha'atzmos can give us the koyach down here in this world to do yesh me'ayin, which is to bring a gilui likus in the world. There's no shaychas to gilui likus. Now, when we say there's no gilui likus, he says there's no gilui likus. There's a helam even on etzem. Let's say there's a helam even on etzem. Etzem is always begilui. So, Shaz, what do we mean by etzem is begilui? And this is also the word that in this Maamar, it seems that Mashmal says that etzem is begilui in the higher worlds. Only in this world it's not begilui. We say that in the higher worlds there's no shaychus. So, what are we saying? The gilui and not gilui. So, if we're that's what just a few minutes ago what I said. If we're speaking about what's the sprach? What's the sprach? Ba'ilum Yisrael Yoinim. The Ba'ilum Yisrael Yoinim, there's no sprach of etzem. The sprach is gilui, right? That's the sprach. That's what they relate to. That's what they say. That's what they see. Right? Adults sitting in the room. What do we talk? We talk seichel. We talk midas. That's our conversation. That's where our minds are. That's where our hearts are. That's our dem lichtmen. Mashenkin with little kids, lemashal. So what's the conversation? What's the communication with little children? Avtzon, right? The Avtzon comes out to little kid much more because that's where Dartin is Detman etzem. But leidach, when we say that the etzem is here, what do we mean that the etzem is here? Aliba the emes etzem is here, but it's not here begili. Begili means, do we in this world, in the atzmi of Olam Hazeh, right? In the yeshus of Olam Hazeh, in the ego of Olam Hazeh, we see the Eibush there. The whole idea of Olam Hazeh, what's the Mitzvah of Olam Hazeh? Let's say the human ego. The human ego is, someone comes over to me and hurts me. How you talking? Right, before I start rationalizing and I do my avodah and I should feel bad, it hurts. Doesn't make it check it. Someone offends me. Doesn't make it check it. It's a natural response that we all have. Now, where do we have this ego from? Our ego comes, right, it's from the first Maamar Tezayin, Rosh Hashanah, our Mitzvah Matzmos, it comes from the Eibush's Mitzvah Matzmos. But that's the truth. That's not the hergish. That's not the gilui by us down here. By us, in Olam Hazeh, without seichel, without midas, the human ego and the choimer hagasmi of Olam Hazeh shreit ani v'afsiyoid. There's no gilui, not mimale, not soiviv, not atzmos. Not atzmos. Yes, once people start thinking Once people start some sort of emotion, some sort of hergish, then ein chanami. Then they're able. Then they find. They find the psak gilui alikos and nachmer. They could see that in the mitziusim atzmusa itself. Where does it come from? It comes from mitziusim atzmus. But that's already the next step. But the first step that we have here, the natural response in the Ilam Haza is no. There's no Eibishter. Right? Einei matzu. So we have two opposites going on in Ilam Haza. On the one hand, what's the sprach in Ilam Haza? Etzem. There's no sprach of Giluyim. Right? Etzem. It's etzem existence. That's what ego is. Ego is the conversation of ego is. Well, what is ego? Ego is I exist. Doesn't make any sense. Right? You have people that have great projects, have great ideas, can turn over the world, and their ego just gets in the way. Right? They want some attention. They want some cover. Like what are you doing? You literally can do so much. Ego, akasha. Ego doesn't have an isbar. It has to have kasha in it, right? That's the whole idea of ego. Ego just is. It's not rational. So on the one hand, the sprach of Olam Haza is etzem. But which etzem? The etzem the way we understand it, not etzem of the Eibishter. The etzem of the Eibishter is b'tachas hahelim. So the etzem of the Eibishter is b'tachas hahelim in this world. But dafke, the etzem of the Eibishter drickt sich aus in der Welt and not in any other world, because any other world, even though the etzem is not behelim, because people are in touch with the Eibishter and they recognize the Eibishter, but they don't think about, or they don't, right? It's not their heart by say etzem because they're in the world of Giluyim. So the whole context of etzem is not in their world. They don't speak that sprach of etzem. And Elam Hazim and the sprach from etzem, but just we mistranslate it. We think when we hear etzem, we think my ego, my mitzias, and not the emes, which is that's the Eibusher's existence. But that's the avodah that dafke in this world where there is etzem, just we associate it with Yesha Nivra, not with Yesha Amiti. Through avodah in this, so because in this world it's not about Giluyim, it's about etzem. So esrirt on etzem, right? So here we're dealing with etzem. We're dealing with etzem energy. So v'meila, once we remivara the etzem, so once a person works on himself and comes to hakara that's star nebeshrafim felt. 1 second. So where did my ego come from? How does my ego exist? The mitziusim atzmusay can only come from mitziusim atzmusay ha'amiti. The yesh ha'nivra is emes mitzius is yesh ha'amiti, right? And then all of a sudden, so they're greich atzmus. You're able to the greich atzmus because you're dealing with etzem, where the etzem is behelim. So, right, the true etzem is behelim, but etzem is here because that's the sprach of Elam Haza etzem. That's one. And another reifin is that dafka being mevarer something that has no shaychus klal uklal. That comes through the koyach ha'atzmos, which gives us the koyach to be mahapich, chashaychel and noher, and completely and so when we take choshech or mahapich el noher, we take something that is no gilui likus whatsoever, and we're able to be megala dir likus. How is such a thing possible? How could we have two hafchim? But then that's a gilui of etzem that only etzem enables. It can enable such a thing. But I don't know if you have to go there for this. The word is more the first nekuda. So that's the vart here that mevert that dir latzmusay through being mevar etzem. So Ebazay come this day. That's Sif Dalid. In Sif Hey, the vart is there's a helm and elikus. Oh, you brought a gilui there, amazing. You did a chiddush here. There's a chiddush here. Ebazay, the chiddush not only in the lower world, there's a chiddush in the higher world. Okay, the ultimate chiddush is in this world. I don't need the ultimate chiddush. Any chiddush is good, right? You get 10 points for trying. You did a chiddush. You already did it great. But according to Sif Dalid, the vart's not a chiddush. Or the chiddush, not the chiddush in the context of that I did something, I added something that wasn't here, right? I brought oil into a place, or a higher level of oil into a place that it wasn't before. The vart over here is that only in a place of etzem, can I be megala atzmos. The higher worlds, even the lower ones of the higher worlds, where there's a helam behester, but it's not a helam of etzem. It's giluyim. It's just lower levels of giluyim. So because it's a world of Giluyim, and Giluyim I can't be Mamshech Etzem. Dafka Elam Haza, which is a world of Etzem, only here mitapt Atzmos, what's the last? Mirit on in Atzmos. So therefore, we can Megala Mamshech Atzmos and Megala Atzmos.